Back in 2002, a new production assistant at the Fox News channel named Jesse Waters was struggling to effectively pitch stories for the O'Reilly factor. He was told he had 2 weeks to get it together or he'd be fired. He later recalled, "Fear of failure can be a big motivator." Needless to say, Jesse used that fear as motivation to turn it into what seems to be the most promising career at the entire Fox News network. It started with a pitch to O'Reilly about a judge in Alabama who had let off a sex offender with a light sentence. O'Reilly said to him, "Okay, Waters, we're going to send you down to Alabama to yell at the judge." "I don't yell at people," Waters said later. "I was terrified, but I didn't want to let Bill down." And he didn't. He made his on-camera debut as a correspondent for the O'Reilly Factor, where he began being featured in a popular man-on-the-street interview series, or interview segment called Waters World. I'm sure you've seen it. In which he travels to different locations, quizzing random passersby about politics, pop culture, and current events. One of my favorite episodes of Waters World featured Jesse asking people questions on American history about which many were sadly but unsurprisingly uninformed. He asked one tattooed, pierced young man in some sort of purple headgear what country we had declared our independence from, and the young man immediately and confidently answered, "Virginia." The amazing thing is that Jesse Waters can expose the ignorance or hypocrisy of so many people in such a way that they actually seem to be having fun. I attribute this to his disarmingly good-natured demeanor, which is part of his charm and presence. Waters World evolved from a mere segment on O'Reilly into a monthly show and then a weekly show as of this January. In addition to that, he also occasionally co-hosts the Fox News show Outnumbered. In March of this year, he scored an exclusive interview with President Trump aboard Air Force One. In April, he became one of the co-hosts of Fox News' roundtable series, The Five, and at the rate his star is rising at Fox, I fully expect Fox to, before long, just dump the other co-hosts and rename The Five The One. And then eventually rename it The Waters Factor. And then it's only a matter of time before the entire network is renamed the Waters News Channel. The downside to this is that as Jesse's star rises, he becomes more of a target for the left, who view Fox News stars basically as emissaries of Satan, particularly ones who are capable of skewering them with ridicule and humor, like Jesse does. One Daily Beast columnist who was frustrated to the point of apoplexy about the rise of Waters at Fox wrote an entire article about him and said that he's like a frat boy villain from early 80s comedies. I don't think that sounds too evil. At least it's entertaining. No less a leftist luminary than New York Mayor Bill de Blasio called Jesse vile and demanded that he be taken off television. When you start getting singled out for flack like this, as the saying goes, you know that you're over the target. But that's a dangerous place to be, because as Steve Bannon pointed out earlier, leftists are the masters of politics of personal destruction. It takes no small amount of courage to put yourself in that line of fire. And for that reason, ladies and gentlemen, finding the courage not only to turn his fear of failure into massive success, but finding the courage to face down the left, the David Horowitz Freedom Center is proud to present this evening a 2017 Annie Taylor Award to Jesse Waters.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was nice. Thank you. I'm Waters, and this is my world. Now, the last time I was at a beautiful beach like this, we were shooting a Waters World, and I went up to some guy with long hair and said, "What country did America declare its independence from?" And he said, "China." Right, Steve? And he was, coming out of a marijuana dispensary, so we're going to let that slide. I followed up with, okay, what year did America declare its independence? And he said, the 80s. Yeah. But I love the 80s. I was a child of the 80s. I was a huge Reagan fan. My parents were radical hippies. They were tear gas protesting the Vietnam War. So, Thanksgiving's rough. Last Thanksgiving was great. I cleared out the whole table. Just myself drinking. A little worried about this Thanksgiving, though. And so I did what everybody after college wanted to do. Go make money on Wall Street. That's what everybody was doing, so I figured why not? So I got a job in asset management. And it turns out you have to have a basic grasp of arithmetic to handle millions of dollars of other people's money. So I was fired about a week later. And then I came back to New York and got a job working for the Pataki re-election campaign, about 2002. And we were running an attorney general candidate named Dora Irizarry, and she was running against, remember, Eliot Spitzer, client number 9. I was in charge of opposition research. Apparently I missed the fact that Eliot was sleeping with prostitutes. Could have come in handy. But he won by about 30. Pataki won. That's how they do it. But I was out of a job. So I needed a place to work again. And who hired me? Fox News. So I started in the basement of Fox News in intake. No health insurance, $12 an hour. 2 p.m. to midnight, Tuesdays through Sundays. I sat next to a girl named Candy. She dotted her I with a heart. Sweet girl. So I found out there was an opening on the O'Reilly Factor, and I was like, I got to get a job there. And I go to interview with Bill. And I sit down, and first question, Bill says, "What's your father do?" First question. I told him what my dad did. Then he gets bored, dead silence. I'm sitting there, awkward. And then I said, Bill, I read your latest book. It was phenomenal. And he perks up and he said, you seem like a smart kid. You start Monday. But as you said, the minute I was hired, I was almost fired. Because we have these pitch meetings where everybody gathers around the firing squad, and we pitch stories to Bill which we think will make good segments on TV. And Bill just slays us and calls us idiots, and it's terrifying. So I get up to pitch, and I start, and Bill says to me, first day, interns don't pitch. Next. And my EP said, Bill, you just hired this person as your new production assistant. This is Jesse Waters. Bill said, okay, go. What do you got? And I pitch, and I bomb. And my EP pulls me into his office that day and said, all right, Waters, Bill thinks you are too inarticulate for television. You have 2 weeks to turn it around or you're fired. So I was terrified. So I worked my tail off, got better at pitching, and I did get better. I pitched this story one day about this judge in Alabama that gave a soft sentence to a child sex offender. So Bill looks at me and says, all right, Waters, you're going to go down to Alabama and confront the judge. And I said, where's Alabama? I've been to Disney World. So the next morning, I'm in a Jeep with a freelance camera crew and a mic in my hand at 6 a.m. staked outside the judge's courthouse. So the judge gets into the car, and he's cruising down the back roads of Alabama, and we're following him, tailing him. And judge gets out of the car at the next courthouse, and we run up on him. And I said, "Judge Bush, how could you do this?" And he goes, "I'm not Judge Bush." He goes, "I'm a state trooper, but I'm going to tell Judge Bush you're looking for him." So the first time I ever tried that, I failed. But the judge got wind I was there and agreed to read an on-camera statement to me. So I call Bill back in New York. I don't tell him that I botched the ambush, but I said, "The judge has agreed to read a statement on camera. What do you want me to do?" So Bill says, "When he comes out, Waters, I want you to yell at him." I'm a polite guy, but I'm terrified. So the judge comes out, and he's in his robe, and he's in his chambers, and he comes out all official, and he starts reading an explanation for the soft sentence. And I just start giving it to him. Don't you believe in punishment? What do you have to say to the victim's family? The kid was only 7. And the judge gets flummoxed and scurries back into his chambers, and it's good tape. We bring it back, we run it. Bill seems pleased. But then he pulls me into his office that night after the show and says, "All right, Waters, good job down there in Alabama. One thing, though. Your voice is too high-pitched for TV." Me? I never had that problem. So then he decides to put me on camera. So do you guys remember the Jessica Lunsford story in Florida? It was a 7-year-old girl. She was kidnapped, held for days in a trailer, brutally raped, and then buried alive by a twice convicted sex offender. Horrible story. Turns out he had this young child in a trailer with 3 other people in the trailer for 4 days. Now, the other people in the trailer claim they didn't know that there was a little 6-year-old getting raped for 3 days. Bill called these people the Slugs Act. So he goes, "All right, Waters, I want you to go down there and find the slugs." All right? So the next thing, I'm on a flight to Homosassa, Florida. Yeah? No? Okay. Check into a $60 a night hotel room, mosquito netting on the bed. And I call Bill. I said, "Bill, how do I find these slugs?" And he goes, "Go to the local watering hole and talk to some locals." So I got my collar up, and I go to the Colonel Frogs. And I'm knocking back $1 drinks, talking to the locals, trying to get the drop on the slugs. So I get the drop and roll up to this trailer, and this guy comes up, and he goes, "All right, yeah, they're in this trailer down there, but watch out. They have dogs." I'm a little afraid of dogs. And so we go to the 7-Eleven, I buy a little sausage, like a little Scooby snack. And we run up on the trailer park, and Vicious Dog comes out. I throw the little sausage down there, he eats it, and I just cruise by. And we roll up to the trailer, and I'm knocking, and we got the crew there, and this hideous woman comes out the back. Dorothy Dixon, crack fiend, real disgusting person. And she's running, and I'm like, "Dixie, why didn't you give this guy up to the police?" And we got the whole thing on tape, and she's running, and she's, I call Bill, and I said, "We got her." And Bill says, "All right, Waters, you're going to be the lead guest on the show tonight." And I'm a little hungover from knocking back drinks at Colonel Frogs. So I said, "Okay," and I hop in the car, and we drive to Tampa, but I need something to wear. So I have to go to Walmart and buy a suit. It's the first and last time I ever bought clothes at Walmart. So I get on the TV, and it worked out. And these things started working. So he sends me all across the country to ambush and confront public officials, governors, congressmen, judges for giving soft sentences because he wants to pack Jessica's Law. 25-year mandatory minimum sentence for first-time child rape. And I'm very proud to say, because of our work, 45 out of the 50 states now have Jessica's Law. So Bill concocts this other idea, and he says, all right, Waters, we're going to try to find out how much young people know. And it turns out they know very little. So he coins this whole Waters World deal based off of one of the biggest box office bombs of all time, Waterworld. And he sends me out into the streets. Now, here are some actual answers from Waters World. Are you ready? Who won the Civil War? France. What body of water is on the east coast of the United States? The Red Sea. One of my personal favorites. Who did America fight in the Vietnam War? Not a trick question. South Korea. I mean, I could go on for days. What do you think about the Ebola virus? It's nice. Okay? It's funny, but it's sad. Because half the country is so oblivious that they're getting hoodwinked and bamboozled by politicians. And that's why we have wars we don't win and trillion-dollar debt, and this country's a mess. So this was the state of the nation in the summer 2 years ago. And the two people running to lead the country were going to be Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton. The two most boring people on earth. Until Donald Trump comes down the escalator. Now, you weren't even really looking at him, you were looking at Melania. So he busts on the scene, and the first event he does was the Iowa State Fair. It's like the opposite of Palm Beach. You know, they got like butter on a stick. I don't know what they have, but it's what you think it is. And that's where phony politicians go to press the flesh and act like real people. Except Donald Trump comes in the $5,000 suit and lands his helicopter in the middle of the state fair. Grabs a pork chop on a stick, rips a bite off, and then starts giving helicopter rides to little kids. So Trump owns the fair, blows everybody out of the water. And then, next thing, San Bernardino. Obama comes out and says, not radical Islam, and we need gun control. Donald Trump comes out and says it's all about radical Islam, and if the good guys had the guns and the bullets were going the other way, it'd be a different story. So now Donald's elevated himself to commander-in-chief at this point, and we're heading into the first Fox News debate. And Megyn Kelly tees him up. You said this about this woman. Only Rosie O'Donnell. Lights out, he wins that debate. And then we get into the nickname game, remember? Lion Ted. Little Marco. Yeah, we'll get to Crooked Hillary. Or my favorite, he said, Mitt Romney was poor and walks like a penguin. Romney's poor. So he wins, and purely through ridicule. And so he's heading into the summer, and Comey comes out, says Hillary's reckless, she's careless, she doesn't know that C stands for classified, It actually stands for crooked. But he lets her off. So Clinton skates, but that sets up the rigged narrative that Trump uses brilliantly later on in the campaign. And we have the convention, and then her convention. But things aren't looking too good because there's the fight with the Gold Star family and the polls are bad. So Trump does what he does best, fires everybody. And he brings in a bunch of killers, like Steve Bannon and Kellyanne. Remember how we used to make fun of Obama for the teleprompter? We love Trump on the teleprompter. He puts him on the teleprompter. So then we start hitting the slogans: America first, make America great again, drain the swamp. And it starts to work, and he's on script. And he surges through August while Hillary vacations. And we're tied, basically, going into the first debate. Then Hillary faints. You'd faint too if you were married to Bill. And it's all tied up, first debate. Trump leaves a little bit on the table at the first debate, let's be honest, and then gets into a fight with some South American beauty queen. Yikes. Then we have Billy Bush weekend. Everybody scrambles. What does Trump do? Doubles down. Brings every single Bill Clinton victim of sexual impropriety to the next debate. There's a lot of people on that table. And he threatens to sit them next to Bill at the debate. I mean, he was already sitting across from Melania. So what happens in that debate? Trump eviscerates her, very tactical, beautiful, but he had the line, "Now, if I were president, you'd be in jail." Still a distinct possibility? The pantsuit with the prison stripes. But the polls don't really move, which is fishy. And then we go into the third debate, probably the most boring. Don't tell Chris Wallace I said that. And remember the line, Trump doesn't really say he's going to accept the results of the election because it might have been monkeyed around with. And, you know, he's got lawyer's blood in him. And Hillary makes a huge deal out of it. This is a threat to our republic. How could someone do this? And so he's still down, though, which is odd. And it starts to close, but because I've been to 48 of the 50 states in this country in the last, 10 years. And I've seen the yard signs, and I've seen the crowds, and she can't get 100 people in Philly, and he's packing in 12,000 in Iowa. Doesn't make sense. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm either, my gut is wrong or something's not right. So it's the weekend before the election, and I have Kellyanne Conway on the show, and she says it's a lock. And I'm like, okay. I go out and I predict a Trump victory 3 days before the election. Thank you. Not a lot of people in Fox did that, or anywhere. And what happens? Election night, November 8th, Donald J. Trump is elected President of the United States. And what does Hillary Clinton do? The exact same thing she accused Donald Trump would be doing. She doesn't accept the results. She says it's illegitimate. She blames the Russians. Her side riots. They burn things. They boycott the inauguration. So I figure now's a great time to get an interview with the Donald. So we call him up, and he says, yeah, Waters, all right, we're going to do something. We'll go down to Nashville. And I see Steve Bannon down in Nashville. Now, he pretends like he doesn't know me now because I'm part of the establishment. I'm very hurt by that. And we're in a holding pen, and we're waiting for the president to come in. The president bursts into the room. Jesse! Goes right to the mirror. Shh! Hairspray everywhere. Sits down. You see my numbers, Waters? And they're not that good. He's like, you see my numbers? Yeah, they're great. See how many people are outside? 10,000, 40,000, 60,000 people. Like, all right, there's like a healthy 12,000, but okay. We knock out the interview. He's like, yeah, you want to ride back to D.C. on Air Force One? I said, sure. Now we walk into Air Force One, and I'm just trying not to steal everything because I got sticky fingers. Everything's got the Air Force One logo emblazoned on it. And we walk up, and he puts all the fake news in the back, and he puts us in the middle. And we knock out some stuff, and then he comes back and tells me to turn the cameras off, and he starts riffing. And I'm busting chops, and I said, Mr. President, why are you playing In Sync at your rallies? It's a little weird, right? And he goes, In Sync's the best, Waters. I'm friends with Lance Bass. Lance Bass is a stud. I said, Lance Bass? He goes, yeah, I was at this event in Manhattan the other day, and, there was this beautiful woman, and she was sitting next to this guy, Jets player, Adonis, huge build. Lance Bass walks by, and the girl leaves the NFL player and chases after Lance Bass. Lance Bass gets tail. I said, Mr. President, Lance Bass is gay. He said, he is? I said, your gaydar is broken, Mr. President. He goes, all right, Waters, I'm going to go back and talk to the failing New York Times. I'll see you later. So O'Reilly thinks I'm a big deal at this point and invites me on the tour with Dennis Miller, the No Spin Tour. So I'm pretty pumped up. And we get to our first leg, and I'm in the green room, and I said, Miller, I'm so psyched, I've been looking forward to this. I can't wait. He said, call me Dennis. My name's not Miller. You're not in show business yet, kid. And I'm there with like a pink pop collar shirt on, and he goes, and by the way, you look like gay Dracula. I'm really rattled at this point, and I'm about to go on stage for the first time, and Bill goes, all right, Waters, don't screw this up, or my next book is going to be called Killing Waters. I said, it'll just be another one of your books, Bill, I haven't read. Oh, he's not here, it's all right. So, there's some turnover at Fox, and they put me on the 5. And turns out I'm not the star of the 5, my mom is. So I'm not sure if you guys all know this, my mom's a part of the resistance. True story, she marched in the Women's March. She brought my dad, a little ashamed about that. And my mom, because we were on at 9, would have a martini, and she would send me texts during the show to critique my performance. We've now debuted a new segment on the 5 called Mom Texts, and I'll just read a sampling. This is Mom to me. I cannot and will not identify as the mother of Trump's wingman. Change it up. Brutal and mean and not American and ludicrous. And where is your voice, Jesse? Sad. And then, I am honestly concerned that some of your colleagues have begun to roll their eyes at your diatribes. So Mom's a tough crowd, but the 5 is great. And the president called me on the cell the other day, and was talking about the 5, but first he had to say, yeah, I just got off this 12-day swing in Asia. Man, it was tough. If Jeb was president, he had to take a day off. So then he invites everybody on the 5 to the White House for dinner. And I said, even Juan Williams? Should we invite Juan? And the president said, what the hell, invite Juan. So Juan's coming, but because he didn't think that Trump would be president, we're going to make him eat crow for dinner. Or the taco bowl. So it's been a wild ride, and just, a few takeaways. 1, pay attention, because half the country isn't, and they get taken advantage of. 2, you got to hold these politicians accountable because they're all liars and they're all so soft. And 3, I would say, ridicule is a very effective form of violence. And humor. And fight these people with a smile on your face. And also, if you ever see me with a camera, run. Thank you guys very much.